Tonight, fear and uncertainty in Venezuela, with Nicolas Maduro now behind bars in the U.S., and questions about what could happen next.
And the goal of the policy is to see changes in Venezuela that are beneficial to the United States, first and foremost.
One day after Maduro's dramatic capture, U.S. officials are now walking back from Donald Trump's assertion they'll run the country. Plus, mixed emotions from the Venezuelan community here in Canada.
We have to have a free country.
And Trump has big plans for Venezuela's oil industry, but does his rhetoric match the reality? And what could it mean for Canada's oil industry? Plus, raw grief in a Swiss ski town as young victims of the deadly New Year's Eve fire are identified. The criminal investigation now looking into those who ran the bar. And even with the power back on, the crisis continues for a remote Manitoba community.
We have windows that are cracked, we have toilets, appliances that are frozen.
Why there's still no timeline for many to return home.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hannamansing.
The U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro has sent shockwaves through the region and around the world. And now that the Venezuelan leader is in custody, significant questions remain. Who exactly is running the oil-rich nation? And where does it go from here? While Maduro awaits his first court appearance, staying tonight in a New York detention center, Venezuela's vice president has officially been put in charge, but Donald Trump is making it clear he expects her to work with the U.S. or else. And he's now threatening more countries. This is the culmination of a months-long pressure campaign on Venezuela, ostensibly about stemming the flow of drugs into the U.S. And caught in it all, Venezuela's citizens, who, as Katie Simpson shows us, are now preparing for whatever may come.
In the Venezuelan capital, few are venturing out. Streets remained largely empty, save for lineups seen at the grocery stores that remained open and modest waits at some gas stations, as a sense of unease settles in. I tried to stay calm because I have small children, she says, but she admits the uncertainty makes her anxious. In the hours after the U.S. military's explosive operation to capture Nicolas Maduro and bring him to a New York City court on narco-terrorism and conspiracy charges, the deposed leader projected defiance.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Saying Happy New Year in front of the U.S. government social media teams capturing his every step. Defiance shared by his remaining supporters back home. In a televised address, the defense minister accused the U.S. of violating and breaching Venezuela's sovereignty, announcing Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president, is now in charge. He also rejected Donald Trump's assertion the U.S. is taking control.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Trump is ratcheting up the pressure, directly threatening Venezuela's new leader, telling the news outlet The Atlantic, if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro.
And so we expect to see more compliance and cooperation than we were previously receiving.
In a series of interviews, the U.S. Secretary of State suggested the Trump administration won't directly lead Venezuela. Instead, he says the U.S. will use its resources to try to pressure Venezuela into adopting policy changes, including stopping the flow of illegal drugs, pushing American adversaries out of the country, and allowing U.S. companies into Venezuela's oil industry.
And the goal of the policy is to see changes in Venezuela that are beneficial to the United States, first and foremost, because that's who we work for, but also, we believe, beneficial for the people of Venezuela.
The mission and its aftermath dividing U.S. lawmakers. Some accuse Trump of waging an illegal operation.
Maduro's a horrible, horrible person, but you don't treat lawlessness with other lawlessness, and that's what's happened here. When America tries to do regime change and nation building in this way, the American people pay the price in both blood and in dollars.
Trump is broadly dismissing all criticism, saying this is different than American interventions in the past because he says Venezuela is like a neighbor. He is demanding full access to everything in the country, telling reporters on board Air Force One that the U.S. is in charge, which contradicts what his Secretary of State suggested hours earlier.
And Katie, Trump is making it clear tonight his ambitions go beyond Venezuela.
Yeah, Ian, Trump made remarkable comments again, insisting the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons and that Denmark isn't able to protect the territory. And he said an operation in Colombia sounds like a good idea to him.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? Trump also says you have to do something with Mexico, that it needs to get its act together, though he walked back threats against Cuba, saying he thinks it will fall on his own. Trump is putting the world on notice. He is ready to act.
Katie Simpson in Washington. Operation Absolute Resolve, as this U.S. mission was called, was meticulously planned and abruptly carried out. And tonight, new details are emerging. Nicolas Maduro and his wife were taken from this military base in Caracas. Satellite images show significant damage done to some of the buildings, the result of that swift military attack to get Maduro into custody. The CIA had been monitoring the Venezuelan president's movements for months, learning where he went and when, including, according to American media, through someone close to him. U.S. forces even built a mock-up of Maduro's safe house to practice on. In the end, the entire operation took about 2 hours and 20 minutes, ending with Maduro en route to the United States, first by helicopter, then ship, then plane. World leaders are now calling for international law and the will of the Venezuelan people to be respected, including today those in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Spain, and Uruguay, who all expressed concern about the U.S. military action. In a joint statement, they said such actions set an extremely dangerous precedent for regional peace and security and for the rules-based international order, in addition to endangering the civilian population. We reiterate that the situation in Venezuela must be resolved exclusively by peaceful means. Here at home, Canada's Venezuelan community is reacting to the news of Maduro's capture by the U.S. As Sarah Levitt shows us, their reactions are mixed, with scenes of celebration tempered by uncertainty and concern over what could come next.
Libertad! Libertad! A celebration in Montreal from members of its Venezuelan community, ecstatic about the ousting of President Nicolas Maduro.
The first step is the most difficult for us, and finally someone else has been able to take that up and push us forward to get something, I wish something better.
Marta Ricon came to Montreal 11 years ago, leaving Venezuela over concerns of violence and economic uncertainty.
We're not being invaded. We have been invaded already for years now, so this is not news for us. We have been, let's say, praying for this situation.
Some, though, are expressing outrage and worry over Washington's intervention, protesting outside Montreal's U.S. consulate.
El pueblo de Venezuela.
Venezuela, Maria Cuevo says, is a sovereign state not to be taken over by the U.S. In Ottawa, another protest.
What the U.S. is doing is a flagrant violation of international law. It's totally against the UN Charter in every way, shape, or form.
There's also worry about Donald Trump's next moves and that he could look beyond Venezuela.
To be emboldened means that, yes, he's going to look for solutions like that if there's any other problem in the hemisphere, and that's including North and South. So, yes, we have every right to be apprehensive.
Sunday night, Prime Minister Mark Carney said he'd spoken with opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, both condemning the Maduro regime. He also reiterated Canada's steadfast support for a peaceful, negotiated, and Venezuelan-led transition process that promotes stability and respects the democratic will of the Venezuelan people. These Venezuelans say they're happy for now.
But still it's a concern and a reiteration of the commitment that we have to have a free country, a country for all Venezuelans.
They're taking it one step at a time. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Seguo gli sviluppi della situazione in Venezuela.
During his Sunday address, Pope Leo said he was full of concern following developments in Venezuela. He called for it to remain an independent nation. The Pope has been openly critical of some of Trump's policies. Just last month, he urged the U.S. not to oust Maduro using military force. Donald Trump has talked a lot about Venezuela's potential to be a top-tier oil producer, so let's put some hard numbers to that. It does have the world's largest proven reserves of crude oil, according to OPEC, 303 billion barrels. That's way ahead of second-place Saudi Arabia or fourth-place Canada. But those countries produce way more oil. Venezuela has 17% of global reserves, but in 2024 it provided just 1% of actual output. Evan Dyer shows us how Venezuela's industry got cut down in size, and he asks if its resurgence would be bad news for this country.
For decades now, Canada's oil patch has prospered from the decline of Venezuela's industry. Now that same industry could pose a new competitive threat.
We went to Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Canada.
Lino Carrillo was one of hundreds of highly trained workers who ended up in Alberta, where he ran a refinery.
The bitumen from Alberta is identical to the bitumen in the Orinoco tar belt, identical.
Back in 2003, Socialist President Hugo Chavez fired half of the workforce at the state oil company and sparked an exodus of those seasoned workers. Since then, Venezuelan engineers have watched from Canada as Venezuela's oil output has crashed by about 70%.
The oil companies are going to go in, they're going to spend money, we're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago.
U.S. President Donald Trump has talked about Venezuela as a potential oil powerhouse.
The estimate is that for Venezuela to produce, 4 million barrels in a decade, it will require north of $100 billion. And of course, for that to happen, it would require mostly private investment.
Private companies would need not just to see regime change, but they would need to see a new government installed in Venezuela and then a track record of that government, behaving well, following contracts.
Venezuela would also need to turn to its exiled engineers.
That diaspora would have to be tapped if the oil industry will ever recover back in Venezuela, because in the country, very few remain.
I will come back and help 2-3 years, and that's what we're looking for with the diaspora.
Engineer Jorge Robles has never lost touch with his Venezuelan roots and says he'd go back too, but the conditions have to be right.
I think that have to be demonstration that human rights and law are going to be respected, and that's for sure.
While he welcomes the capture of Maduro, he says he was disappointed that the U.S. didn't recognize the opposition as the legitimate government of Venezuela.
Venezuela, in the new era of a democratic government, is going to be open for business, but it's not open for sale. So we are an independent, sovereign country. We want to get back to be that.
If Venezuela's oil were to start flowing again at the level it once did, it could pose a problem for Canada, especially given its ease of access to Gulf Coast refineries.
You'll just pull a tanker up, unload, and then you're kind of competing directly with Canadian barrels.
It would be harder, though, to get that Venezuelan oil to the U.S. Midwest, which is where most Canadian oil is refined.
And Evan, what would the effect be of another 4 million barrels of heavy crude entering the market?
Yeah, that could have a major effect on Canada, but it's also something that's years from happening, even under the most optimistic scenario in Venezuela. The country is still controlled by the Maduro regime, just minus Nicolas Maduro himself. As for the eventual competition from Venezuela, experts say Canada is already pursuing the solution, new pipelines to carry Canadian oil to the coasts instead of the U.S. That solution, of course, will take years, but fortunately, the threat of Venezuelan competition is also years away.
Evan Dyer in Ottawa. A bit later in the show, we'll talk with 2 journalists in Venezuela's capital, Caracas, about what they saw following the U.S. strikes and the mood there now.
If I had to describe it in 2 words, I would say uncertainty and contradictions were a huge part of Saturday.
People, when they found out that Maduro was taken, many of them cheered loudly, and I heard reports of the same in other parts of the city. But then the uncertainty hit because we realized that the structure of the government hasn't changed.
That's coming up in about 20 minutes. Turning to other news, French and British forces worked together this weekend to strike at the Islamic State in Syria. You can see Royal Air Force fighter jets refueling in midair as part of that mission. They bombed tunnels leading to a suspected underground weapons cache in central Syria. The terrorist Islamic State was defeated in 2019, but fragments of its forces remain at large, while a U.S.-led coalition keeps watch. Victims of that deadly fire in a Swiss bar on New Year's Eve were as young as 14 and 15. With all 40 of the dead now identified, members of the close-knit community are coming together to share their grief. Jennifer Yoon shows us they're also demanding answers.
Days after a deadly fire, people in this tight-knit Swiss ski town are finding out if someone they love was among those killed. A packed bar on New Year's Eve turned into an inferno after sparklers appeared to set the ceiling on fire. More than 100 people were injured, 40 died. Officials have now identified everyone killed, the youngest, 14 and 15 years old. Most of the victims were young adults and teenagers, like Benjamin Johnson, a young boxer, 22-year-old Emily Pralong, and 16-year-old Arthur Brodard, whose identification brought a mother's frantic search to a sad end.
Nous pouvons commencer.
Now we can begin mourning, she says. The grieving shared by hundreds who gathered for a special mass and a makeshift memorial outside the bar. Many in the small town are still in shock. These were kids from families we've known since forever, says this local man. I just learned that one of my son's friends died, says another local. Amid the grief, gratitude for those who rushed to the scene to help, but also growing anger. I feel cold fury, says this local woman, one of many who want to know how the fire got so bad so quick and whether it could have been prevented. Authorities are investigating 2 bar managers for criminal negligence, but the probe is still ongoing. For those who survived, at least 11 are still in hospital, most in intensive care. Many more are coping with psychological trauma.
There are a lot of conflict emotion, who survive is happy, but it's also sad.
This is one of the deadliest fires in this country's recent history, and residents of the town say a scar this deep will take time to heal. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
1 week after power was knocked out on a central Manitoba First Nation, the lights are back on, but tonight there are new threats and the situation is still dire for many. As Alexander Silberman explains, Pimicikamak's chief is calling on Ottawa and nearby tradespeople for help.
In Pimicikamak Cree Nation, the devastating aftermath of a days-long power outage. Cracked water pipes, making more than 200 homes unsafe to live in.
There's a risk of people getting electrocuted if there's water on the ground. We have windows that are cracked. We have appliances that are frozen.
Chief David Monius estimates the damage to his Manitoba First Nation, home to 7,000 people, will cost at least $44 million to repair.
We need engineers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters.
Pimicikamak is now without safe drinking water, its aging water treatment plant leaking, and community leaders say they're overwhelmed.
When I'm listening to elders here crying to me, asking when they can go home, I can only cry with them because we don't know.
More than 4,000 people have already been forced to leave Pimicikamak due to the power outage. Many sent more than 700 kilometers south to Winnipeg, and the extensive water damage is forcing more residents to leave their homes. Another 100 people were airlifted out on Sunday. Paige Papanikis, a member of the First Nation who lives in Winnipeg, came to help evacuees.
My community is my family, and I feel for them during this stressful time.
The stress for many displaced residents, waiting to learn how bad the damage is, with no timeline as to when it'll be safe to return.
It's been hard, I just can't really show my emotion with my family being here with me, so I just keep things together.
I feel exhausted, and also I feel anxious because I spent 3 months in Winnipeg this past summer from the fire evacuation.
The federal government says it's working to assist the community and providing funding, but officials still have more than 1,000 homes to inspect, warning the cost and scope of the damage will continue to grow. Alexander Silverman, CBC News, Edmonton.
Roughly 20% of people who emigrate to this country leave within 25 years, and highly skilled immigrants are almost twice as likely to leave. As Michelle Song tells us, critics say Canada is losing the very people it needs the most.
Mahbub Akhtar sits in front of his computer every morning, looking for jobs, something he has done since he arrived in Saskatchewan almost 3 years ago. Now he's one of many highly skilled immigrants considering leaving Canada.
Certainly now it doesn't feel good, because in a way, skill doesn't last forever. So I'm the same person think 3 years back, waking up early in the morning, looking at my Bloomberg terminal or Reuters screen, doing the market analysis. And now I wake up in the same computer screen to look for jobs every day.
He's from Bangladesh with a master's in economics from the University of Melbourne and has 14 years work experience.
If this is not recognized here, I will apply and try to connect with all my friends all over the world and try to see whether I have any opportunity.
According to the Institute for Canadian Citizenship's latest report, 1 in 5 immigrants leave Canada within 25 years of landing, and highly skilled immigrants are more than twice as likely to leave Canada. And the report says the country is losing immigrants in critical occupations like healthcare or engineering.
We still talk about immigration as though it's an act of charity.
The CEO of the Institute says that when these economic immigrants leave, it ultimately affects all Canadians.
This is us waiting longer in the waiting room. This is us having a harder time finding an early childcare spot for our kids. This is us having a harder time building that high-speed rail line or building a new export relationship.
A loss for Canada, but also a choice many like Akhtar don't want to make.
I don't want to leave this beautiful country.
The report says that the federal government needs to develop a retention strategy and invest in settlement supports tailored to highly skilled immigrants, as it's critical for Canada's growth. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
More and more Canadian seniors are finding themselves without a home.
About a third of our shelter users are what we would consider elderly.
How one BC shelter is trying to meet their needs. As the holidays wrap up, the waste piles up.
We try to recycle it as best we can, but there's definitely some waste for sure.
The calls to get rid of it responsibly. Plus, what happens when a Pitbull look-alike comes face to face with the real deal?
I did not think in my wildest dreams we were actually going to get in touch with the man.
Mr. Worldwide meets his match in our moment. We're back into it.
No, that's for sure, though.
A new year means a fresh start for many Canadians returning to work and school this week. But cleanup from the holidays is just getting underway. Yasmin Franea shows us how much piles up during the festive season.
You'll see the beer bottles, right?
This Vancouver recycling depot has received tens of thousands of cans and bottles since Christmas and New Year's.
27,000 bottles of just wine bottles. And that was picked up on Friday.
And it's not just beverage containers that are piling up. Canadian households produce 25% more waste during the holidays, according to the nonprofit Zero Waste Canada, including 540,000 tons of wrapping paper and 6 million rolls of tape.
I really don't like waste.
There's always lots of packaging, all the toy parts for the little kids, all the screws, and you got to get rid of all of it.
We try to recycle it as best we can, but there's definitely some waste for sure.
Not everything belongs in the residential recycling bin, like lithium-ion batteries commonly found in e-bikes, smartphones, and laptops, but they're still being improperly recycled.
And what happens then is it ends up at our huge recycling facility that is full of wrapping paper and cardboard, and it causes a fire when it gets run over by a piece of equipment or gets jammed into a piece of equipment. And it puts the lives of the workers at risk.
A number of cities in Canada say fires like these, sparked by lithium-ion batteries, are on the rise. Officials urge residents to drop batteries off at designated recycling locations and to try to reuse items whenever possible after the holidays.
I absolutely save all the gift bags. I save all of the bows and ribbons, and I set them aside and use them over and over again.
And ultimately, they say, the best thing to do is to give gifts that leave behind as little waste as possible. Yasmin Ghaneya, CBC News, Vancouver.
We return to our top story, U.S. military action in Venezuela to capture and remove its leader.
The moment I found out, I checked my WhatsApp and it's, flooding with messages, floating with videos of the operation. Everybody's calling each other.
What journalists inside the country say is happening tonight and what they're bracing for next. But is Trump's plan for Venezuela's oil even realistic?
We're talking about decades and decades of underinvestment and assets that have essentially atrophied or ossified.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. A terrifying moment on a highway in Houston, Texas. Authorities say this bus was struck from behind, causing it to roll off an overpass, landing on its side. More than a dozen people were sent to hospital, but none with life-threatening injuries. Investigators still trying to figure out exactly what happened. Faced with a rapidly rising cost of living and often a fixed income, an increasing number of Canadian seniors are now relying on shelters. Tanya Fletcher looks at how bad the situation has become and the push for Ottawa to come up with a housing plan for elders.
I slept here last night.
This is home for Mohinder Kunkun these days. The 68-year-old wound up on the streets after a stay in the hospital left him behind on rent. He was evicted, now left with his pension and little else.
I can easily get a place for $1,100, $1,200 somewhere. What am I supposed to do on $400 a month?
He says many seniors are struggling to make ends meet on a fixed income outpaced by the cost of living.
The price out of everything, even renting an apartment. Every time we go to the store, every month, every 2 months, the price of something going up 10 cents.
So about a third of our shelter users are what we would consider elderly.
Since the pandemic, staff at the Union Gospel Mission on Vancouver's downtown east side have noticed a steady increase in seniors staying at the shelter. And as they age, they say their needs become more complex.
What we have in here is we've got the accessibility shower, we have a slightly lower sink.
In November, for the first time ever, home care aides started coming to the shelter to help seniors with basic tasks like taking a shower.
And when more and more people have more and more accommodations that are required, it actually becomes more difficult to be able to serve people because we're not actually a senior care facility. We're meant to be an emergency stopgap.
Seniors' homelessness is bad now, and it's about to get much worse.
National Seniors Advocacy Group CanAge says homelessness is on the rise right across Canada. Federal data shows the number of seniors relying on shelters rose by roughly 47% from 2021 to 2024.
This is actually also older people who own their own houses or who have had stable rentals who now are finding that they can't keep up with the costs, or they have additional health needs and where they're living doesn't suit, but they can't find appropriate accommodation either.
She says the federal government needs to prioritize a more robust housing policy for the aging population. In the meantime, shelters like this will continue serving more seniors despite being stretched nearly beyond their ability. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. In the aftermath of U.S. strikes to topple Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, what happens now? Two journalists in the country's capital talk about the moment of the attack and the fear on the streets.
Well, there starts to be like a sort of, panic that there might be a cut of basic services.
But first,
we're going to have our very large United States oil companies go in, spend billions of dollars.
The U.S. president has a plan to rebuild Venezuela's crumbling oil infrastructure. But tapping those vast reserves isn't quite so simple. Eli Glasner breaks down the major barriers to getting investors into Venezuela and oil out.
For the moment, this is the Trump plan, America running Venezuela and its lucrative oil industry.
We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela.
And the president insists there's no downside for America.
It won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial.
Oil analyst Roy Johnston is bullish on Venezuela's long-term future.
Venezuela has enormous resource potential.
Emphasis on the long term.
This is a 5+ year story at the least.
There's a lot of oil in the ground, according to Associate Political Science Professor Pasha Madavi.
Venezuela has some of the world's largest oil reserves, about 300 billion barrels. That would put it above pretty much anywhere else on the planet.
But it's not just the amount of oil, but the kinds of oil that Venezuela is sitting on.
Most of Venezuela's oil is heavy oil, and something that's close to, Alberta's tar sands. It's some of the dirtiest oil in the world. It's because it takes so much energy to get out of the ground. Often you have to inject steam just to lift the oil out. And of course, there's a lot of gas associated with that oil.
At its height of production, Venezuela was producing over 3 million barrels a day. That was in the early 2000s. Now it's only producing about a third as much, or about 1% of global oil production. In the mid-2000s, when President Hugo Chavez began accelerating the nationalization of industries, imposing punishing contracts on foreign oil companies, big names such as US-based ExxonMobil left the country. So what does the oil industry look like today?
Right now, it is quite expensive to extract some of those very heaviest oils that it has in the Orinoco belt, which is kind of straddling the Amazon rainforest. But of course, Venezuela has lots of other oil, including some heavier blends that are cheap to extract.
While Trump talks about making the Venezuela oil industry great again.
We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly.
Not only are there major challenges,
we're talking about decades and decades of underinvestment and assets that have essentially atrophied or ossified in place. They've slowly rotted down.
But there's the question of the financial risks international companies would face.
They've all been burned repeatedly by the Venezuelan government, both through Hugo Chavez, into Maduro, and kind of over the past decades. It's going to take not just Trump's kind of promise that they will be made whole, that they will be safe in their investments. It's going to take a visible and kind of credible track record.
I wonder just how ready is Venezuela, even with American companies coming in to help, to get that oil flowing?
We don't have to look that far back in history to see how this may play out. It was only 23 years ago when the United States invaded Iraq, and similar promises were made back then of trying to return on those spigots. Same story, Saddam had really destroyed Iraq's oil industry. A lot of comparisons to him and Hugo Chavez, Maduro's predecessor. Fast forward, it's 2 decades plus. The oil industry in Iraq is only now really starting to be revitalized.
And while Trump talks about American companies taking back Venezuelan oil,
they're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago.
There's little talk of elections.
I wouldn't say this is unequivocally a war for oil, but there are a lot of signs. It's kind of hard to ignore the quote-unquote muddy footprints of the oil industry. The Wall Street Journal had reported that a number of major banks and financiers are headed down to Venezuela right now. So you can see the kind of fingerprints of how this administration, the Trump administration, may be trying to rework Venezuela's oil industry and try to do so in the favor of American and European oil companies.
Let's get some reaction from inside Venezuela. Gabriela Mesones Rojo and Tony Frangia Mawad, our journalists in Caracas. And Gabriela, let me start with you. Tell us your reaction when you first started hearing explosions on Saturday.
So we woke up to the sounds of explosions about 2 a.m., which lasted for a couple of hours with virtually no information at all. At first, it was even impossible to really know what was happening, if what was happening was an escalation of US military, or if it was something internal, like a coup, for example. So a couple of hours went by, sort of no explanation. At 5:30 a.m., we got the first confirmation via social media, Truth Social, post that Maduro and his wife Celia had been taken. So from this time, we started getting a little bit more of an insightful situation of what was happening. We had confirmation that it was a U.S. attack, and also at this point, we were able to confirm what was the objective of the attack. Soon after we got confirmation from Delcy. We also got it from Diosdado, so it was pretty certain what was going to happen.
And so, Tony, once daylight hit and word started getting out through Truth Social and other sources of what happened, what was your reaction and the reaction of people around you?
So the moment I found out, I checked my WhatsApp, and it's, flooding with messages, floating with videos of the operation. Everybody's calling each other, and we're not sure what's happening. As Gabi said, we all were thinking, is this a coup d'etat, or is this, a US intervention? So when it was more clear that it was an intervention because of the type of helicopters that the videos were showing, I went down, and I was actually in the beach near Caracas in a sort of beach clubs member where people go in vacations. So I go down, and people are just with water bottles filling them in case there's like a shortage of water or supplies, and people are running to the mini market to line up for food. So there starts to be like a sort of, panic that there might be a cut of basic services and supply. And people are just talking, and there's a lot of rumors. And then, as Gabi said, around like 5 a.m., I think, it was already daylight. Trump announces that Maduro was extracted, and well, that's when some people started cheering, but then there was also a lot of uncertainty. We didn't sleep all day, so we spent like all the day awake and since 2 a.m.
Yeah, and Gabriela, where you were and what you could see, what were things like on the streets of Caracas on Saturday and into today, Sunday?
So, well, many Venezuelans from the diaspora celebrated loudly and publicly. It wasn't the same feeling here in Venezuela. There was, if I had to describe it in 2 words, I would say uncertainty and contradictions were a huge part of Saturday. On one hand, of course, people were sort of celebratory. They were happy that Maduro got some sort of justice and that he was detained, and most importantly, that he was overthrown for power. But also, as Tony mentioned, people were very worried on, risk assessment, damage management, and just trying to deal with what was happening on that day. So during Saturday, the streets were very quiet. There were no reports of protests, of public celebrations. There were very little reports of colectivos in the street also, which is something very usual, especially in poor neighborhoods. People were more focused on buying food, buying medicine, going to gas station. Of course, most of them were closed, so people were gathering in very long lines to make this happen.
Tony, I could imagine in a power vacuum where the leadership of the country is so uncertain, where there's been this kind of abrupt shift, people could take advantage of that. And I just wonder, did that happen where you were? Did you feel any lack of safety, for example, as you walked around on Saturday and Sunday?
No, actually, at first, many people were afraid that there were going to be looting or riots or something like that. But honestly, people were very organized. And like, as I said, we went to do the long queue at the mini market, and it was full of people. And people, when they found out that Maduro was taken, many of them cheered loudly. And I heard reports of the same in other parts of the city. But then the uncertainty hit because we realized that the structure of the government hasn't changed. So we didn't know where we were standing. And when I went back to Caracas that day, I just saw so many queues of cars in gas stations, queues of people in pharmacies, queues of people at supermarkets. And by night, the city felt like a ghost town. There was not even a car in sight in the highway. So I feel that people were more or less trying to just cover their basic needs in case things got worse, because there's parts of the city without electricity right now near where the bombings happen. But more or less, it was like that sort of tense calm of confusion of Venezuelans not knowing what's going to happen and where are we heading right now. Because as I said, Maduro is gone, but the government more or less remains intact. So that's more or less the attitude right now in Caracas. Today, there's more people in the streets, there's more cars. There's also reports of these colectivo paramilitary groups from the government in poorer areas trying to maintain some sort of control. But regardless, it's crazy to imagine, you know, that the bombing happened and people are just acting very normal. It's very surreal in a way. The morning after I woke up, people were even playing tennis in the area I was.
Gabriella, I think we have about a minute left. I think that there are restrictions on internet access in Venezuela. How are people getting sort of accurate news? Are they getting accurate news as to what's going on?
So it's extremely hard. And of course, this is fueling uncertainty and this is fueling disinformation and misinformation. Just to know, the Venezuelan media ecosystem is profoundly impacted by the last 25 years of dictatorship. More than 400 media have shut down. Many journalists have migrated. So right now there are many places that are considered news deserts, and it's pretty hard to confirm information. I think right now people are trying to confirm everything. Media is trying to fact check all the information that we found in social media, and journalists are doing the best. But social media is the place where people find information nowadays.
Yeah, for better or worse, I guess. Gabriela Mesones Rojo and Tony Frangia Mawad, journalists in Caracas, thank you very much for speaking with us this evening.
Thank you, Ian.
Coming up, tracking heart rate, steps, and sleep, sales of fitness watches and wearables are skyrocketing.
If you're a running enthusiast, chances are you are using a Garmin watch.
How small-town Alberta is making big strides in the worldwide fitness industry. That's next. Wearable technology had a banner year in 2025, and a Canadian company has become a big player in the industry. Paula Duhachik on the small-town business making a big splash.
These days, consumers will spend big money to track their workouts.
The Apple Watch is actually an amazing watch for running, and I'm preparing for a marathon.
Market research firm Circana says spending on fitness watches and wearables
What's up, Fitbit fam? Welcome to Fitbit Premium.
is up nearly 90% compared to last year. And at a Calgary running club, there's one brand that's especially popular.
I'm just wearing a very simple Garmin watch.
You see people flick their wrists all the time, looking at their watches. What's my time? What's my lap time?
Garmin's revenue from fitness watches and wearables was up 30% in the latest quarter, and technology that makes those watches tick was developed just down the road in Cochrane, Alberta.
Yeah, we started the business with that little foot pod that went on your running shoe.
Jim Rooney, who's now managing director of Garmin Canada, started making basic fitness trackers in the late 90s.
It was the first time you could go out for a run and figure out how fast and how far you went.
Rooney's company was later acquired by Garmin. Now he runs its Canadian office. It's where they figure out how to take biometric data from a person's wrist and plug it into their watch.
If you're a running enthusiast, chances are you are using a Garmin watch.
But not everyone is convinced.
We don't sell Garmin anymore. There's just competitors that are doing the same thing for less now.
Amid a sluggish economy, some analysts say keeping customers spending could be tough.
I do think that the consumer's ability to spend on these types of wearables is challenged if the economy takes a turn for the worse.
As for Garmin, it's testing new technology to keep customers interested.
Real-time health data for your horse just got real.
Paula Duhachik, CBC News, Cochrane, Alberta.
Coming up, a viral celebrity lookalike comes face-to-face with his double.
I did not think in my wildest dreams we were actually going to get in touch with the man.
The moment he met the singer Pitbull, next. Okay, this is Pitbull next to Pitbull, sort of. One of them, the real singer. The other is Brad Stoll, a lookalike. Stoll went viral on social media for accidentally convincing a crowd of people that he was Pitbull. He even made our moment a couple of months ago. How he met the real singer makes our moment tonight.
What's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I did not think in my wildest dreams we were actually going to get in touch with the man. Halloween of 2025, I decided to dress up like Pitbull. I convinced everybody at this bar that I was Pitbull.
Got Pitbull in the house. Y'all give it up for Pitbull.
Posted on the internet, goes viral. Pitbull was sharing it himself. I get reached out to by New Year's Rockin' Eve, the ball drop countdown here in the States. They're like, hey, Pitbull's doing his taping for New Year's. Would you like to come by and would you like to meet him? And I had to go to Vegas for New Year's. I walked in, I was tunnel vision. My heart was racing. I was genuinely nervous. As soon as I walked in, he knew exactly who I was. I was like, Mr. 561, I'm looking for Mr. 305. And he started dying laughing. We dallied together, which was hilarious.
Dolly.
Seeing us standing next together like the Spider-Man meme, just kind of the craziest experience of my life. So surreal. One of the craziest things to finish out my new year. It was unbelievable. Super, super awesome.
And it was more than a meet and greet. Pitbull had a concert for a small group of people, and Brad got to see it and got tickets to another concert, which brings to mind, I dressed up as Elton John in my high school variety show, extraordinary spitting image. So if any of Elton's people are watching, maybe we can arrange a little private concert. From all of us at The National, thanks for being with us. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. I hope you can join me weeknights at 7 Eastern on CBC News Network.